Hi, thanks for joining us. This is the on-record portion of the Rockbridge Report. I'm Evelyn Rupert, and joining me today is Elise Sheffield, Education Director at Boxerwood Gardens. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
So can you just kind of briefly explain what Boxerwood is?
Boxwood is located just outside Lexington. It's a 30-acre arboretum and woodland garden that was in private residence, but now it's a private nonprofit organization that pretty much exists to introduce environmental education to local people, from kids to grown-ups.
Okay, so what are some of the main things that bring people to Boxerwood?
Well, it's a very unusual collection of trees. Dr. Munger, who was the original owner and creator of the garden, had a deep fascination with Japanese maples, and he collected trees from a lot of places. So at different times of the year, there's a lot of interesting blooming that goes on. And so people like to come and wander around, but we also have a play area, nature play area for young kids that's very attractive for parents to come and bring their kids. And there's little ponds and frogs and stuff. So it's sort of a way to explore nature without going way out and having to be nervous about that.
Okay, so then what is your role as Education Director?
Well, my main job is carrying out the mission of Boxerwood, which is to educate and inspire people to become stewards of the earth, successful carers of the earth. And as Director of Education, I'm particularly focused on education programs for children, because that's the seed of the future. And so I oversee the coordination of partnerships between our organization and the local schools, so that we can have classes of children come and learn environmental concepts and also engage in environmental service projects, both at Boxwood and in the community.
Okay, so what are some examples of those service projects that kids do?
Oh, well, we're particularly interested in water issues. We're part of the Chesapeake Bay watershed, even though we're on this side of the mountains. And that also has been a funding source for us. And kids are naturally very attracted to water, of course. So we've developed a very extensive water monitoring program that involves about 600 kids every year going out to creeks and finding out, doing chemical tests as well as biological tests to find out the health of our local creeks and rivers. So that's sort of a monitoring job. But other activities include helping to improve water quality by doing plantings along riverbanks, litter cleanups, those kinds of issues too.
Okay, so what made you decide to involve yourself with Boxerwood?
Well, that's an interesting question, actually. A lot of people follow what they want to do because they're really excited and attracted to something. And I was a instructor of English at a local college for a while before I did this job. And my interest actually was a concern for the environment, and a concern that kids were getting not enough opportunities to connect with the natural world. And so I saw this as an opportunity to give back to, I'm from here, to give back to my community this way.
Okay, so when a class comes to Boxerwood, what are some of the things that they do there?
Depends on their age. A lot of third grade classes come, so they're 8 years old, 9 years old. That seems to be a really great time to explore, because you're kind of sturdy and you're curious, but you're capable. You can tie your own shoes. So we have a curriculum that all kids go through, so even if they switch schools, they can do that. And in third grade, they start exploring habitats of animals. So we look at our ponds and look for turtles and frogs. Then we have a whole program about soil and how does soil get made. So we investigate our compost piles and we look for worms. And then we learn about soil erosion, and they actually do a service project right there by planting grass seed on our hill where we have erosion. So they're actually, if each visit, there's something that they apply their knowledge directly to an action, so that they leave feeling more knowledgeable and more capable than they did when they arrived. So we try to mix science and language arts and whimsy and action all together. So they have lots of different ways to get that hands-on experience.
So how many times would a class come to Boxerwood during the course of a year?
A class can come up to 3 times, and most classes come twice. Sometimes they come once, depending on the grade and the school.
Okay. And you said that even if they switch schools, they'll still be in this curriculum. So what schools are involved with Boxerwood?
Yeah, it's very cool. We've been doing environmental ed for about 10 years and have built up this program in our partnerships. So there are 3 local school divisions in Rockbridge: Lexington City Schools, BV City Schools, and Rockbridge County is 3 different school divisions. And within that, there are, I think, 7 elementary schools. So all 7 elementary schools participate grade-wide in grades 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 in middle school. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of kids.
Okay. So what is the main thing that you try and teach the kids when they come?
Love.
Love for?
Love of being outside and love of nature, connection to nature.
Okay.
I would say that, and then if you've got that, then you can start building concepts and activity after that. But if you feel a disconnect from the start, you're not going to care, what the worm does or care about the frog. So that's where we start. We really are very personal in our relationships with kids. We keep them in a small group so that they have that personal feeling.
Okay, so who teaches them? Is it volunteers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's
a lot of volunteers. We have a very tiny education staff. I'm part-time and I have a part-time colleague, and there's another part-time colleague who does preschool. That's it. And yet we work with 2,000 kids, so how is that possible? So we have adult volunteers that come, that are trained with us, and also Washington and Lee students are an integrated part of our program. Through environmental studies particularly, there are a number of students who have about 25-hour internship credits with us, so they come teach too.
Okay, so kids are always going to be excited to get out of the classroom, but how do you kind of keep them focused in this out of the classroom environment?
That's a really good question, because they can be overwhelmed by all of that. So we have a predictable structure that when they come, how we work with them, how we split them in small groups. And so since they come again and again over a number of years, they know how we do things, and that helps them.
So you think you've built relationships with certain schools or teachers?
Absolutely.
Okay, so does Boxerwood ever come to the classroom?
We do. In fact, today I was over at Waddell Elementary School. We've got some small projects where we go to the class and the kids plan an investigation in their schoolyard. And then I'll go back and we'll do the investigation, and then we'll plan what to do to make it better. Last week we had a litter cleanup along Woods Creek near Waddell School based on a 4th grade class's opinion that the water was being endangered of being polluted by trash. So we actually did the whole arc, and they became heroes of the day.
So why do you think it's important to teach kids about nature and actually have them in that environment instead of in the classroom?
Well, I think we're such interesting humans, and we don't know all about ourselves just in a classroom. And we discover more about ourselves in the world in which we were born and in new capabilities. And I've had teachers say that they've seen dimensions of their children, students, that they hadn't in the class. And you can learn about frogs all day in the classroom, but that's very different from meeting one eye to eye in the field. So
what do you think the kids take away from their time with you at Boxerwood?
Well, I think they take an enthusiasm for nature, and I see that like when they first come, sometimes they don't want to, say, touch a worm, but by the end of the day, they've asked me a number of times, can I take it home? Can I adopt it? So there's a relationship that they can build on the rest of their lives.
Okay, so have you faced any challenges as education director?
Oh, sure, yeah, and in these days with nonprofits, our main challenge is funding. We're not a state agency, so we have to charge for our programs, but our customers tend to be the public schools, not known for their huge money bags either. So figuring out how two nonprofit organizations can do things has been our biggest challenge.
So how have you kind of dealt with that?
It varies a lot, but what we try to do is write competitive grants for special funding for projects, and we've been very successful in that grant writing, help from the federal government, state government, private sources. We charge schools some of the fees, and then we have donors and members who donate additional funds, and we're also trying to develop a program with sororities and fraternities at W now to sort of help underwrite classroom visits as well.
Okay, can you tell me a bit more about the relationship with colleges and student organizations?
I guess we see our mission to connect with college students as well, even though, a lot of WNL students are just here for a little while, but this is a good way to tap into the local community. So we connect with them through internship credits, and they help do various things. We have a couple work study students as well. But what we're really wanting to figure out is how to develop an ongoing partnership where we know, like, for example, fraternities and sororities want to do service projects. Let Boxerwood be a site. And maybe they want to do a fundraiser for us. We'd really like that as well. So we keep trying to evolve, like, how can we make a relationship when students come and go and we're still here, but what can we do together?
So how are you trying to get the word out, I guess, about Boxerwood?
To the community or to Washington Lee?
Both.
Well, we do a variety of things. We have newsletters that go home to parents about when their kids visit, and we have articles in the newspaper. We have, as I mentioned, a couple of work study students from WNL. We've asked them to sort of figure out how they could be ambassadors for us back on campus, talking to fraternities, giving presentations. So we try to be a very diverse approach. We also have a website, boxerwood.org.
Okay, so what's coming up in the spring?
Well, the spring is the time that all the rhododendron blooms and all the azalea, and when it's graduation, I guess we've already had Parents Weekend, but graduation or any time, it's a great time to bring parents out who are visiting to stroll around the gardens, starting about mid-April. And of course the frogs and the turtle comes out, and then we have our spring season. So a lot of just spring celebration things will be on the horizon.
Okay, great. Well, I think that is all we have time for, but thank
Alas.
you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
This has been the on-record portion of the Rockbridge Report. I'm Evelyn Rupert. Thank you.